Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Yankee Cowboy Podcast. I am your host, Tim Wilkins, and today we're going to be reviewing the 727 AEW Dynamite and then the 729 AEW Rampage episode, which, if you really get down to the bottom of it, thank God I combined both shows into one podcast because this is a fruitful bunch of garbage wrestling I've ever seen in my life. I will say, however, at the time of this recording, that hopefully SummerSlam, WWE SummerSlam will be in better spirits and hopefully a better situation. AEW Dynamite on July 27th was recorded and taped in Worcester, Mass. Not Worcester, not Worcester, Worcester. Worcester, Massachusetts, the DCU Center. And I will say, very interesting card from top to bottom. I'm very intrigued on what to see from WWE SummerSlam on the creative side and what they do going forward into the era of Triple H. Now, AEW Dynamite, I've always and still am a skeptic, will continue to be a skeptic, as they have zero booking talent. They have plenty of talent, but no booker. So, and to me, it has become apparent that no matter what we see from talent, we're not going to see talented booking. So, let's get right into the review. I want to take this time to feel free to follow me on social media at Yankee Cowboy 27 on Twitter. Same for the handle on Instagram. Feel free to like, follow, and hopefully continue on the listen here. Let's crack right into the action, shall we? AEW Dynamite opens up at the interim heavyweight AEW Heavyweight Championship with El Toro Blanco, Roosh, versus cosplay Stone Cold himself, Jon Moxley. Thank God for William Regal on commentary. Hopefully this match actually worked itself through. Just give you a heads up, Roosh actually defeated his brother at AEW Death Before Dishonor earlier this evening. And this is the first time Moxley and Roosh have actually been together in the States. Roosh attacks Moxley very quick and does a very quick introduction here. As he's, Moxley still does this wild thing introduction through the crowd, and he does a whole throw in the water bottle, does a whole bunch of nonsense, and doesn't really need to do it. I would say a lot of stupidity on the outside, throwing people into stairs and to barricades. And just overall, when they finally get into the ring, they do a couple moves, and then they go to a TV timeout, or a TV break, commercial break. Obviously, they do picture-in-picture. And it's just typical Jon Moxley match where it's all hardcore, doesn't get the job done for me. And they come back from the break. Moxley hits a superplex off the top. Both men are back and forth. Not a lot of storytelling in this match. Obviously, with Roosh being the heel, does obviously a heel move with a kick to the what they like to say, Jiminy Crickets. It just really, in my opinion, really just a functional match to open the show, and it's becoming more and more apparent that they try to hold the rating from The Big Bang Theory, which is on TBS. They try to hold that rating into the first segment, and they seem to keep failing. And I want to keep on going and talk about this, but I really can't because the match is terrible. They do a even Andrade comes down after Jose, the assistant's there, does another heel spot with a crotch of Moxley on the top rope. Lucha Brothers run down, chase Andrade off, and basically Moxley finishes up with a submission on a bulldog choke for a submission. Um, Very anticlimactic match, and I'm just going to say this, not not a fan. Just I think Roosh looked weak in this match. Um, the brutality and the super physical style worked his interest, but uh, just not a fan. The next segment went right into the Jericho Appreciation Society with JAS, and Jericho comes out and congratulates Moxley for beating Roosh. You know, he says Moxley's on a roll, and he does pretty much a anticlimactic promo talking about Daniel Garcia, Sammy Guevara, Anna Jay. And Anna Jay does herself a really big disservice on the mic, and I'm just not a fan. Jericho just has so much go home heat, it's just beyond insane to understand. Because he keeps coming back to whatever gimmick he wants to come back to, and it gets over barely, and it gets done. It's just stupid. Moxley says he's used to looking up to Jericho, or he used to look up to Jericho, excuse me. And he says, in his own way, he's the GOAT in wrestling, but he's so sick of this back and forth sports entertainment crap, which I think the fans can agree. But he says he wants the Lionheart, and if he wants to defend his title against him. And so that's going to be interesting if they do match up. If Jericho does come out like the old WCW Lionheart, it's going to be very interesting long term. Make a long story short, after that promo died off and went to commercial break, they come back. Excalibur comes back from the break and introduces the new AEW Trios Championship, which will be crowned at All Out. I'm not going to discuss this any more than we have to, but AEW already has way too many belts as it is, and way too many people on the roster for TV time that they allot. So, all this does is, as I call it, hot shot the book, and you're going to see very small returns on this trio. And I don't see it being anything more than an Atlantic title or a lower down title. After Excalibur introduces the Trios Championship, Dante Martin does a promo with Sammy Guevara. Obviously, they're facing off that night, and he'll have Sky Blue in his corner. I don't know who the hell that is. There's no introduction to these characters. Like they're assuming that we all know who these people are, but without an introduction, what are you gonna do? You're gonna sit there and shrug your shoulders and go, "Okay, who cares?" Right? After that promo, it goes into the FTW Championship with Absolute, Ricky Starks, and Danhausen. Which, by the way, they did a really nice job with the Ricky Starks introduction video before he came out, overly promoting him as a heel, and he does a great job. Then you go, Danhausen comes out, takes a couple offensive moves. It's a squash match, basically. He comes out to Starks win quickly, and then he challenges, so he has something more in the tank, and he basically opens up the challenge again, and Hook comes out, and not sure what the incentive here was to do this match or to do this, but it's just why. There's a question of why. Why take the title off of Starks? Starks is probably one of your biggest stars in the promotion, and you take a namesake title off of him and you devalue him as an entertainer. Hook wins the match with a submission, and it's kind of a weird match. And it comes back from commercial break. It goes to commercial break after Hook wins via submission. And Tony Schiavone, they open back up with the commercial break, and Tony Schiavone is in the ring and asks Starks his decision to do his second match if he regrets it. And what the issue I have with this is Starks does a promo that pretty much puts himself over. Does a great job. But it shows by the booking that AEW doesn't care. And of course Hobb turns on Ricky Starks, which I'm not sure why they would turn him against him. Doesn't make any sense. Just a lot of kind of going on with the booking. And I think personally what you're going to see down the road now is with Triple H coming in at WWE Creative, AEW is going to have to hotshot the book a lot more to try to draw. Right now, WWE SmackDown drew I think a 2.10 for the first SmackDown. That's not after the announcement. Still doing pretty well. So that's where I kind of think they're dropping the ball here pretty bad with Ricky. I think they could do a lot better. He should be the TNT champion or the Atlantic champion, and he's not getting that opportunity. So I'm kind of disappointed in that. Hopefully they do something better with him going down the road, other than this terrible storyline with Hobbs, which could have been more of an enforcer, and he could have done the big man role and got over. But this is not going to end well. After that promo, they kind of go into this scenario of shitty match. I'll just say it, just terrible matches. They go with the Spanish, obviously Sammy Guevara versus Dante Martin. Very, very just bleh. It's a spot fest. If you want to watch a spot fest and a trampoline show between two guys, that's Guevara and that's Dante Martin. That's what that is. And there's no... Listen, I'm a fan of spots, right? I'm a big fan of show me some technical wrestling. But at the same time, when do you just go, Sammy, you're going to kill yourself? So, as I said, nothing more than a spot fest in my opinion. And I don't see it being more than that. If you guys see it being more than that, feel free to tweet me and give me my own medicine. But I don't see that being any more than that. Guevara is a great wrestler, but he's a spotty guy. He's a spot fest. And, of course, everything in AEW has to have an afterbirth. So, Guevara wins the match by pinfall. And by his finisher, continues to beat on Martin until Sky Blue gets between him. Conte and Blue fight it out on each other. Anna Jay runs out and attacks Blue. Jay and Conte beat her down with Ruby Soho. Ortiz and Kingston run them off. Why? Why do they need to have this nonchalant, stupid match and have an afterbirth? I get it, you want to keep to build into something more, but it gets old after a while. It's constant afterbirth, and just can't ever have a just standalone segment, and it's really frustrating as a fan. After that segment, they transition into a Daniel Garcia promo against Danielson. And I'm going to talk about this main event later on, but they really don't. They still keep with the same 2 segments, promo, match, 2 segments, match, 2 segments, match. They still keep it that same structure of, if you ever watch an AEW show, it's very just really boring at certain points. However, after they come back from the commercial break with that Daniel Garcia, it's a Jay Lethal doing a promo talking about the Samoa Joe match at the pay-per-view, and Jay Lethal says, I'll challenge you any time of the day on any Friday night. So I think AEW needs to figure something out here, long term, on the Ring of Honor, AEW, kind of collusion, and just doesn't go anywhere. After that segment, it goes to Tony Schiavone interviewing Jungle Boy, and just surprising how Jungle Boy still hasn't gotten any better on the mic than he is, and uses cuss words and just doesn't really bring it on a promo. And he talks about Christian's personal life with his wife being divorced, and but at the same time it doesn't hit. That storyline's not going to hit. It's too convoluted with personal stuff. So they do have a quick match after this. It's Swerve Strickland versus Tony Nese. They do have a quick match there. It's about 7 or 8 minutes long, and Swerve Strickland wins with pretty much a flying kick. And typical AEW, they do a Malachi Black and Brody King cut a promo on Miro and Darby Allin, and King challenges Allin to a coffin match, which, assuming it's going to happen, probably at All Out. Pac is then shown on the show defending the All Atlantic title in England against Connor Mills last week, or the week before, so that's kind of shown. A women's match is then in there with Thunder Rosa versus Miyu Yamashita. Very typical women's match with Thunder Rosa, and I will say it in the most nicest form possible. It's a clunky startup of the match, and it looked like it was almost going to fall apart, and it really kind of kicked it into the break. It kind of kicked it into the drive before the commercial break, and then it kind of, after time to go home, it kind of got to the overdrive and kind of got put together pretty nice. Big sequence of events here. Yamashita goes for a fireman's carry. Rosa does a false finish for a 2 count. Yamashita reverses into a near fall of her own after that. Spinning head kick followed by back kick. Goes for a shining wizard. Rosa moves and hits a flying knee. And then Rosa hits a roundhouse kick and fire thunder driver for the victory. So that's kind of how they finish it. It was very clunky in the first segment, which I think they could have done a lot better. But what are you going to do? Very two different styles of wrestling, 2 different opportunities to just do things in a very unorthodox manner. There's no storyline hype behind any of this, so that's typical Tony Khan, and I'll leave it at that. And that's where I kind of get upset, because you see there's so much opportunity here, so much opportunity on the roster, on the women's side, which Swerve Strickland, Jay Lethal, those guys. Once you get those guys an Iron Man match, let them go 60 minutes. Those guys can seriously put it together. Samoa Joe doesn't have to work. I know he's working, but let them work a storyline together with Strickland and Jay Lethal. They both have very similar styles. They will work really well together. So, very disappointed in the way these guys are starting to get booked, and Tony Khan needs to figure out what they're going to do with Ring of Honor, because some of these guys are just getting misused from top to bottom here. It's getting seriously disappointing. The main event, which really caught me by surprise, I think as a fan, I was caught off guard by this, but at the same time, it made sense. Um, and I mean that because Danielson should be a top commodity. It shouldn't be a thought ever about why they're the best, but they are. Bryan Danielson does some of the greatest work in the ring, um, bar none. And I think why do they continually do this to guys that are the money draw of the company? And I'm just completely, I lost respect for Tony Khan with this. And I'm outraged by this, and I hope many fans are as well. But they put Daniel Garcia over Bryan Danielson, and it's an upset. But Bryan Danielson gets a concussion, and to me, the way they finish this off is playing on a head injury and a neck injury that's pretty serious. And let's be honest here, concussions and injuries in professional wrestling are well established. But some of these guys that are in the ring right now have more concussions and neck injuries than you can ever imagine. Edge, Danielson, Punk, Starks has a lot of neck injury, and so I'm not a fan of how they booked this. Um, Danielson did a great job in this match. I do have to give him credit where credit's due. Great in-ring performance, but wish he won. Or they did a finish that doesn't hurt Garcia long term, but instead it was the other way around. They protected Danielson and let Garcia go over. Really not that exciting. And that's where I kind of just go, eh. And I'm disappointed. The show was kind of lackluster as a whole. Didn't have many ups and downs other than didn't have very many high spots other than possibly the Garcia finish, if you want to consider it that. The women's match was clunky. The introduction of the trios title kind of was a letdown when they already have 6 titles and none of them get TV time. You know, the women's TBS championship doesn't get TV time. The women's championship on TNT does. The tag team titles haven't been defended on TV in probably about a month. So it's kind of stupid if you ask me. So that being said, guys, I give this episode of AEW Dynamite a huge, big thumbs down, as well as the next show I'm about to talk about here in this podcast as well. I did it as a combo episode this time, and that is the AEW Rampage for 7/29. And I'm just, thank God I don't have to do a separate podcast with Rampage as a whole, because that'll last all about 10 minutes. I could probably do that going forward, but this is getting to the point where it's just stupid. No point in booking anymore. No point in realistic opportunities for these guys to move up the ladder. It's just put on a match and let it have a go. It's Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends working with Jay Lethal, Sadeb Singh, and Sanjay Dutt. Sanjay Dutt, by the way, is also a producer for the AEW company, and he's probably going to be one of the guys that runs creative going forward. Not really a great thing if you ask me. Really just a boring match. Typical, I say about 10-12 minutes. Orange Cassidy and Best Friends win. sequence of moves that make zero sense to me whatsoever. And then Singh beat after the loss. Instead of selling the loss, Singh beats down the best friends. Lethal hits Cassidy with the lethal injection. Wardlow comes out to a huge pop. They face off. Obviously, it's going to be Jay Lethal versus Wardlow for the TNT Championship. They're going to promote that going up forward because Jay Lethal wants the title. Next match is Ethan Page versus Leon Ruffin, which give that about 7 to 8 minutes, and terrible. Just terrible. 7 or 8 minutes. Ethan Page beats Leon Ruffin with Ego's Edge. 7 or 8 minutes. Not worth talking about in my opinion. It's probably one of the hardest shows to watch right here because none of this. This is an hour-long episodic television show that goes on TBS or TNT every week. No storyline continuation. No understanding of who this is. It's basically like Superstars or Velocity all over again. So, Cole Carter, who used to be Troy Donovan in NXT, is over in AEW now working dark matches. He does a promo. Kind of stupidly allows QT Marshall to get back on television and does a promo offering him a spot in the factory. Just makes zero sense why these guys are on television. And then you have, which I'll say it, they do a Lee Moriarty versus Matt Sydal match, and just stupid. 15 minutes. Lee Moriarty beats Sydal. Why? And then it goes into a typical, just disappointing the way these guys are getting booked. It's like a hot shot style of booking. You see it more and more. And it gets old. And I'm just sick and tired of just seeing these guys with no rhyme or reason win matches. It doesn't make any sense. Why are these guys getting put over? And after that match, they do a quick segment, quick promo for Britt Baker and Rebel, or do a promo hyping up their match for next week's AEW Dynamite match between Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa. And so that's a decent promo. I give Britt Baker a little bit of credit where credit's due when it comes to a promo, but it would be interesting to see how that match goes. It could definitely be a clunky one, just like the one we just saw there on AEW Dynamite. So I'm just disappointed with the next 3 matches here because it doesn't make a lot. Typical AEW booking style, they do 2 promo segments. They do a Tony Schiavone doing a Claudio Castagnoli introduction of the new Ring of Honor champion, and it doesn't really click. He got put over the weekend at that pay-per-view for Ring of Honor, and no reason for that. Claudio's brand new to Ring of Honor and AEW. If you want to make a splash, let him go for the championship of the TNT title. Do something of the regard for AEW and draw an audience that direction. Another segment, The Acclaimed premieres a new music video, and next thing you know, they're doing a dumpster match on this week's following week AEW Dynamite. Just stupid matches here. Anna Jay and Ruby Soho might be the match of the night, in my opinion. It's quick and easy. 8 minutes, about 12 minutes. Solid main event. Just easy. Anna Jay uses the cast of Ruby Soho to deliver the Queen Slayer. The chokeout puts her to sleep and wins. Really quick, easy finish. overall, I will say AEW TV needs to really do some kind of soul searching and find its way. And if it doesn't do it soon, with Triple H taking over WWE Creative here, they're going to get taken out of business in a hurry. So that being said, I hope everyone had an awesome week. Appreciate the listen. This is my review for AEW, Dynamite, and Rampage. We're going to have the WWE SummerSlam episode come up, as well as the following week's AEW, Dynamite, and Rampage coming out probably Saturday of next week. I want to appreciate everyone's listening. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, Twitter at Yankee Cowboy 27. And I hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you.